Good afternoon on what is a cool, grey and overcast day. It is Monday the 27th of February and I've got a nice hot cup of tea and a package to unpack. So let's get into this. It's fairly solidly packaged, so I'm going to have to take the knife to it because I'm just looking for the point where I can get the knife in. Oh, there we go. Got a lot of I'm going to use a bit of force here. Got to try and get through the there we go. Almost there. It doesn't quite want to open, but going to. There we go. I'll show a bit of force there. But what I'm going to pull it out, I'm just trying to get it past the tightly wrapped tape. Sorry about this. That does not want to come out of its package, but it is. So what I've got here is the Morrow Project 4th edition. I've completely forgotten about this. Now the Morrow Project was a role-playing game from the very late 70s, early 80s, and it was a post-apocalyptic role-playing game in which an industrialist foresaw the end of the world, end of civilization, and then basically prepared bunkers and caches of technology in which chosen survivors could enter into hibernation and be awoken after the disaster and then come out and rebuild civilization. Well, the Morrow Project 4th edition. 150 years after the fall of civilization, the members of the Morrow Project wake to find a changed world. Without the modern transit and communications infrastructures, distance that once took hours now take weeks, and news that once travelled in milliseconds now takes months to arrive, if ever. This new world is characterised by tiny hamlets of simple daily existence awash in a sea of barbarism and anarchy. The Morrow Project could not prevent the coming catastrophe, nor did they have the resources to help everyone immediately. It was possible to help with the rebuilding, but even this was a massive undertaking. Plan became action, and over the years, many well-trained teams were cryogenically frozen in hidden bunkers to emerge at a time when their resources and help could do the most good. Intend to be part of a reorganised plan to rebuild America. Your team finds that they have missed the 3 to 5 year expected wake-up call. Now far outside the original time frame and unable to contact the rest of the project, they must start alone the process that was intended for thousands. Isolated in a world where the war is only a distant legend, your team must rely on their ingenuity, training, and each other to carry out the general orders of the project. Assist the population in rebuilding America whenever possible. Reunite the bulk of the Morrow Project forces. 3. Survive. The Morrow Project may be played with nothing more than this book, dice, paper, and pencil included in this book. Full details on Morrow Project teams, vehicles, equipment, modern weapons, complete medical details, people and creatures living in the post-Holocaust world, and more. And this is from Timeline. Okay, and that's almost impossible to read. Now, Morrow Project, so late 70s role-playing game that kind of was one of the precursors to the rash of military-focused games that came out during the early 80s, that would kind of culminate in Twilight 2000, 1984, 1985, and despite it being a sort of like a post-apocalyptic game, it was more of sort of like a military combat game than anything else. So this was published in 2013. So we open up and we have got the introduction. And the thing is, it's sort of like this is just basically an update of the original. just to see, essentially almost like a vanity project. I mean, the game kind of had its fans, you kind of remembered it, but I think ultimately the Morrow Project is kind of these days is quite an obscure game. But we open up with the offer. Here's the offer that's going to be presented to the player characters. Here's why you are decided to go along with the project and get frozen in time until after the forthcoming Holocaust. So it's got plenty of kind of opening fiction, which kind of sets the scene, gives you the flavour, and takes you through the first few days of your awakening. And got the background from another member of the team, just to give you her kind of point of view. And then a proper introduction explaining what the role-playing game's about, and you've got illustrations of guns, just because you've kind of got an idea of what the focus is in the game. So it's here we've got an explanation of what the things players need, the language of role-play, units of measure, and so on, and then more about the project. How to make teams, personal belongings you would take with you, and the equipment and so on, the setup. So teams and sort of like could be recon teams, Mars or military assistance, rescue and scarcity, agriculture, medical and civil action, engineering and so on, science and others. Then we have we'll try and, it's quite a thick book. Suggested roles there at the bottom there, including team leader, driver, gunner, quartermaster, radio operator. So very kind of military in its setup. From the start. Then we go for the freezing process and the possibility you wake up with tube shock. And then discussion of placement of teams, and ask the question, why are the project teams armed? There's a good reason for that. A, to survive, B, to give themselves an edge in the future, and also because, hey, it's going to be no fun if you wake up and can't go and shoot somebody. In the game, that is. It's the sort of thing, it's going to be, I think, when I say that, I mean, it's kind of how a lot of role players think, I need to arm myself, need to go and do this, do that to survive, and I need to protect myself. And that's understandable because that's kind of how a lot of games are played. In essence, there is an element of combat that we don't engage in normally on a day-to-day basis. So, discussion of regional locations, things like bolt holes, team supply caches, different types of bases, and so on. Before we get onto personnel and actual sort of looking at the core abilities, dealing with things like we've got essentially the basic skill rules there, physical attributes, and again, one thing is it does have this page watermark in the background, and it's a bit too strong for a simple watermark, I think. It does kind of get in the way, and as you can see, doing things like you're allocating quite a lot of points. So this is quite a detailed game that only sort of like a 1980s, sort of late 70s game would be, and we know we're getting into a combat game when you have calculating blood points and the effects of blood loss. So there's no getting away from that. Then we get into actual point allocation, where we're doing training points, finishing touches, and essentially one of the things is sort of the different types of teams that they're listed on the front. You've got science, recon, and Mars. And this image here echoes very much the cover of the original Morrow Project book. And then you can have talents, things like telepathy, teleportation, so you have psionics as well. So psionics is an optional thing. and it's kind of difficult to try to get into with any ease. It's quite a densely laid out game, and you've got quite a lot of work to do in order to really kind of create a character. Because, you know, for example, you're determining character background and skills, and you start off with a career structure, you know, previous education, career path, education, trade, technical, high school, and then you're looking at college, graduate school, medical school, law school, civilian careers. You know, you can have all, you know, you have also, like, you know, your characters can have a range of these. So military service, and so on. You know, even, you know, you could be member of Marine Force Recon or a Navy SEAL, and then you get on top of that at the end Morrow Project training. Below it does have rules in here for playing non-Morrow Project personnel. Then we have skills list, again with this, you know, quite unsubtle water margin, which, you know, basically just kind of get in the way. It's quite a list of skills, and then travel and timing, aging. A picture of an old man there. Just and then we've got do have a skills explanation. It's let's be fairly short, but we're straight into combat, and that's you know, that comes with hit locations, so you can tell how you can kind of. It's an older game, so therefore you have detailed hit locations. You know, standard bipedal chart, human hit locations, and then, you know, chord shot tables, partial cover. It's all in there if you want it. So, you know, it's covering things like ballistic damage, resolving burst damage, armor types, special situations like automatic fire, explosive damage, suppressive fire. You know, it definitely has an emphasis here on military combat. And then we have an example of combat. Damage and recovery. Effects of damage. And then we have 101 other ways to get hurt. I'm not going to count whether there's 101, but there's quite a few of them. You know, dehydration, thermal illness, electricity, cold injuries and hypothermia, poison and disease, freezing, non-freezing, cold injuries, infectious diseases, radioactive contamination, and then we go on to Morrow Project weapons. You know, with lots of weapon tables. Just, yeah. Yeah, you know, mix of different weapon types. So, you know, rifles, pistols, grenade launchers, machine guns, mortars, flamethrowers, rocket launchers. Then we get on to explosives. And we have grenades and some then weapons issue and some basic loads. Ammunition packaging, explosive supplies, It's all in here, protective and survival equipment. Yeah, if this is what you're looking for, you know, essentially there's quite an extensive list in here. Morrow Project vehicles. Things like handling things like vehicle integrity checks and damage examples and possible vehicle loadouts, including equipment being loaded into the cargo bay of a transport plane. And you're kind of going, would that actually happen in you know, you're thinking, wondering what kind of setting you are going to have in this post-apocalyptic future where you have that kind of setup. It kind of sort of like seems superfluous. But we've got a couple of kind of small military vehicles, which are the sort that, you know, designed for minimal kind of maintenance and so on, and will be able to cope well in a future where there isn't a great deal of technology. So yeah, also got cargo trailers, including the water purification trailer, probably one of the most useful things they're going to be carrying with you. And then we get to essentially what we've got here is the Mars 1 and Science 1 vehicles, which are very kind of reminiscent of the Damnation Army vehicle. And then we've classified project material, project director's eyes only. So here we have all the secrets of, you know, how to what the Morrow Project was about, how to run it, how big it is, what happened 150 years in between, you know, the player characters going into the tubes and being frozen and coming out, advice on running the game, and then we've got discussion of the world after, what it's like in this future, encounter tables, and things like handling the weather. So there's a table there for check wind direction and speed, check every 6 hours. Okay. Then we have breakdown of the region of the United States and map of the United States in the future of the Morrow Project. Guide to survivors, and this kind of style is these pages here are kind of reminiscent of the original Morrow Project. At technology levels, because of course it's a post-apocalyptic future, technology will have regressed, and that's the main advantage of the player characters. They have greater technology. Encounters, including with a humble farmer there, despite the possibility of you know, disease and radiation indicated by you know, the symbol there, and then we've got different stats and various character types, so including bikers, breeders, ballooners, you know, nomads, farmers, frozen chosen, gypsy truckers, inquisitors, invaders, mailmen, because of course there's the whole thing about post-apocalyptic setting. Some people will take up the flag for the late sadly destroyed US postal system and ensure that the mail gets through. Members of the Kentucky Free State. Why the Kentucky Free State? Why not any other state? You know, also Maxwell's militia, medievalists, monks, Napoleon's own. You know, of course, Republic of Texas. So you have a sort of like a lot of groups breaking down, you know, and organising around militias and forming societies of their own. Even sons and daughters of the Confederacy. Universities as a rallying call to try and keep knowledge together. Even wanderers, wandering warlock, and warlocks, witches, and shaman as options for NPCs. And then we get into survivor equipment and economics, so you can actually sort of like begin to get into the the details of rebuilding your world. Whether that's mining, forestry, fishing, and so on. How big is the extraction sector? How big is the manufacturing sector? Transport. What's the status of the transport networks? What's still existing? What's been replaced? How is that handled? How much do things really cost? Well, now and then, or then being the future. And then we get into the flora and fauna of the Morrow Project. And again, oddly, you sort of like, you have this old watermark. Okay, for a game set in America, kangaroos. I'm not disputing the fact that kangaroos might escape from a zoo, but so we've got various different types of creatures that will have survived and gone feral. Even right down to having stats for cats. Ordinary domestic cats that have gone wild. And okay, you want it? Weasels. Probably quite my favourite page so far, just on weasels. And then we have larger beasts. And camels. So quite a lot of the range of extensive bestiary, including sheep, dogs, and sheep. And then we have flora, including things like doomrot, kudzu, sundew, mutations, and potential animal behaviour, and altered diet that could have been changed due to the effects of the apocalypse, and some example mutants. Disappointed that it's still being done by the kangaroo, unless everything's mutated into kangaroos. No, there's no indication that the kangaroo there has mutated. And then the nature of the end of the war is decided by the game master, so nuclear war. This is the actual history. It's quite short, and then essentially it's applying the effects of the nuclear war to the America of the future. So we have a full US target list, and that's quite lengthy. In fact, let's just sort of like so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 pages of target list for nuclear weapons. Covers Canada as well, just in case you thought all of you north of the border were safe. And then we have random missiles and rocks falling and their effects. So the day of the war began, and we've got a sample scenario in the back of the book. Detailed cache locations and contents. An epilogue. So the scenario is, it's just sort of like, just checking. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The beginning scenario is 6 pages. The list of targets for nuclear weapons is 17 pages long. Okay, so just a comparison. You've got the epilogue, and then an appendix of glossary terms and abbreviations, common metric conversions. That's the character sheet. annoyingly on that grey background, and these are pre-generated characters. And you've got several of those. But, and just a very quick piece of background to each of them. It's not very extensive. And yeah, that's it. No index. A bit disappointing. So yes, that is the Morrow Project, Morrow Industries controlled document, confidential, published by Timeline Ltd in 2013. Morrow Project 4th edition. As a game I didn't think would come back. Anyway, thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. If you've enjoyed this, then please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with a package containing a book or game, which I will unbox or unpackage and talk about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do hit that subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. Be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.